This conference will now be recorded.
Right, let's start. Right, so yesterday we have seen how to create the transport request and how to store the objects in a package. And once we store the objects in a package, your object will be captured as part of what change request, nothing but what transport request. And we understood that one transport request is a collection of what n number of tasks. Okay, every consultant who is involved in the development will have their own credentials. So with their own credentials, they have to create the respective task under the main request. And while saving the object, they must ensure that the object is stored in their respective task. And once the development is finished, right? Once the development is finished, the consultant has to release the task. Once all the developers releases their respective task, the owner of the request can release the main request. Okay, so once the request is released, it means that it is ready for transportation to the next available system in the landscape. The actual transportation will be done by what? Basis consultant. Okay, so we have discussed that part yesterday. Now what I'll do is, let me repeat the same thing. I'll create one request. Okay. Yes, Srija. Any questions?
Sir, I'm not able to see the screen. I've been logging in several times, but I'm not able to see the screen.
But
I don't know.
others are able to see, Srija. What about others? Can you view the screen, others?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, problem is from your end only, Srija.
I'll check. I'll check it, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay. So what I'll do is, once again I'll create the request. Under the main request, I'll create the task. Yesterday we have seen I was logged into two different users. One is BAN, another is Sridhar. So same thing I'll do. I'll create one task on behalf of BAN. I'll create one task on behalf of Sridhar. Then what I'll do is, yesterday we understood that we can release the main request only when all the tasks are released. Now what I'll do is, assume that there are multiple tasks. Assume that there are multiple tasks, but only few tasks are released. But some of the tasks are not released. But what are the objects which are part of the release task should be sent immediately to the quality system for testing purpose. But I cannot transport till we release the main request. So we'll see how to copy the objects from one request to what? Another request. Okay, so what I'll do is, just observe this. Yeah, so see here, yesterday what we did, we went to SC09. Try to understand, we went to SC09, and as part of this tool transport organizer, we understood that there are two types of request: customizing request and workbench request. Right, workbench request will capture the changes made to repository and what dictionary objects, and customizing request will capture the configuration related changes. I'll show that later on. So first let us focus on workbench request. So what we have done yesterday in SC09, initially we created the request, right? Initially we created the request, and along with that request one default task got created. Then after that, the other users can start creating the task, under the main request. So instead, what you have done is we have selected the request type as workbench request and the request status as what modifiable, and we clicked on what create button yesterday, right? We clicked on create button. We have selected workbench request, and when I continue, it is asking for the description. So along with the request, one task also gets created on behalf of this particular user BN. That's what we have done yesterday. So initially we created the request. Along with the request, one default task was created. Then I created the package and we started storing the objects in the package. Now what I'll do is, it is not compulsory that I should come to SC09 and create the request. While saving the object itself, I can create the main request. So what I'll do is, observe this carefully. We logged into which user here? BAN user. Okay. So I'll try to develop one object. Let me go to ABAP editor SC38. I'll give the object name as something Z program 1 something. Okay, I'll give the object name as Z program 1 PRG1 create, right? Create. I'll provide some title like test program 1, right? Test program 1, and then type of program, I'll choose it as what? Executable program. Type of program is executable program. Let us save it. So earlier, till day before yesterday, we were saving all the objects in what? Local objects. And we understood that the objects stored in local object cannot be transported because they are not captured in what? Change request. In order to do the transportation, the object must be captured as part of a change request, or we call it as transport request. Then only we can do the transportation. So in order to capture the object, whatever we are developing, that is called as object. So in order to capture the object in a change request, we have to ensure that the object must be stored in a transportable package. Yesterday, we created a package in, we have created one package by using what? Object Navigator, by using SC80. I'll use the same package. So since I want to do the transportation, I'll give the package name as Z Gensoft package, the existing package. Done, right? I have not created any request. Remember, yesterday, initially we created the request, and while saving, I gave the package name and I've chosen the appropriate request. Now the package is not, sorry, now the request is not available. So I'll save it. I'll provide the package name. I'll click on save. When I click on save, it is asking for the request. So yesterday what we have done, we have browsed and we have selected what? The existing request, which we created in what? Transport organizer. Now I don't have any requests available, right? So if I browse here, it is showing me some existing requests which are not released, I can choose this, but what I want is, let us try to understand how to create the new request while saving the object itself. So instead of choosing the existing request, yesterday we are choosing the existing request. So what I'll do now, this is an object. Since I want to capture that in a new change request, new transport request, we can see here in this pop-up window, we have what? Create button, create request. I'll click on create request. Yeah, it is asking the short description. I'll give the description as something 13th April request, something. Okay, I'll provide some description. 13th April 2022 request, some meaningful description, and along with the request, one task also gets created. What is the task here? BN. Let me save it. Right, I'll save it. Right, you can see here. This is the request which got created just now. What is the request number? S4HK 9000708. You need not worry about this number. Okay, this number will be auto generated depending upon your ID and all those things. We need not worry about this. So under this request, one default task also will be available na? Just for confirmation. If you browse this, so you can see it, this is the request which got created just now. Under this request, we have the task, default task. What is it here? 709. So even if I choose task here, it will show only the request. Done. Continue. So your object gets stored in that particular task, which is part of the request. So I'll just provide some source code here. Check for the syntax, activate. Done. It is activated. Clear? So zprg1. Now I'm having another user. Na? So let me log on to other user. Means is other ABAP consultant. He is also responsible for what? Developing the objects. Developing the object. So he has to save his objects under his own task. Na? So let me log on to. So instead of closing this, I'll open another session. I will log on to the other user. What is the other user I'm having? In my case, Sridhar. I'll give the password. Right. Okay. So I logged into which user now? Sridhar is a logged in user. So he is also responsible for developing what? Some objects. Okay. So he has to store his objects under his own task. So what I'll do under the main request, what is the main request? 708 na? Under the main request, I'll create one task on behalf of which user? Sridhar user. Okay. So how do you create the task? I'll go to SC09, right? I'll go to SC. Yesterday we have seen that. I'll go to SC09. Yeah. Who is the owner of the main request? BN. BN is the user who has created the main request. Under that request, we have to create what? Task on behalf of which user? Sridhar. So here, what is the user ID shown here? Sridhar. So if I display, observe this carefully. It is not showing me the request 708. Na? It is showing only the request which are related to Sridhar. Right? So since I have to create the task under the under the user request BN, what I'll do, I'll just go back. I'll give the username as what? The owner of the request is what? BN. So I'll give BN here, right? If I display, it will show you the request and task which are related to this BN user. So if I display, yes, you can see it is showing all the requests concerned with the user what? BN. Right. Next, what you have to do here? I'm still in which user? I'm in what? Sridhar user. So on behalf of this logged in user Sridhar, I have to create a task. Na? Let me create the task. I'll create the task. So under this 708, which is the main request, what I'll do here, this is a task available. I'll right click on the request. Understood? How do you create the task? And I'll right click on the main request and I'll choose what? Add user. So when I choose add user, create task for user Sridhar, yes, continue. Done. Okay, so Sridhar user also is having his own task. What is the task number here? 710. So this Sridhar user has to save all his objects under which task? 710. One user cannot assign the objects in what? Other users task. You will not have the authorization. So I'm still in what? Sridhar user. I'm still in Sridhar user. I'll try to create some objects here. So I'll go to SC38. I'll give the object name as something zprg2, some object name zprg2. Done. Create. Type of program executable. Package. What is a package which is available on behalf of the entire project? Gensaf package. All the consultants will be using what? Same package. Okay, on behalf of the entire project, you will have only what? One package. So I'll give the package name here. Once again, there is an issue. I'll just cancel. I'll save it. Yeah, I'll give the package name as something Z Junsaf package. I'll save it. Right. It is asking me the request. Okay, who is the owner of this object? The person who is developing this object is called as owner. We are in which user no Sridharna. So I'll just browse here. What I have to choose? I have to choose a task related to what Sridhar user. So I'll choose what 710. What is the current status of this user? Unclassified. Since the task is empty, it is showing it as what unclassified. So let me choose this 710. It will always show what the main request continue. Right. So I'll say write some text. I'll say hello, save it, check for the syntax, activate this. Done. So this object is developed. Let me develop another object, zprg3, create. I'll provide some title here, program 3. Type of program is what? Executable program. Save it. I'll give the same package, save it. It is asking for the request. I'll choose what? My concerned task. What is the concerned task here? 710. Done. Okay, it will show the main request. Continue. I'll provide some source code here. Done. What is the status of the object here? Inactive. So let it be inactive only. Done. So yeah. So if you go to this SC09, observe this. So what is the main request here? 708 is the main request. Under this request, we have two tasks. One task is related to BN user. Another task related to what? 710 user. Sorry, Sridhar user. Okay. BN user is responsible for developing an object. This is the object. And this Sridhar user is responsible for developing some objects. There are two objects here, PRG2 and PRG3. Okay. Now let me switch to the other session, that is BN. So observe this carefully. BN. So what? Let me put it separately here. So observe this carefully. So we have created what? One main request. Okay, what is that request? S4 something HK 700. What is that? 900 708. 900 708. So 900 708. I gave some description. Now, what is the description I gave? Something 13th April 2022 request. Okay. Under this request, what happened? Some two tasks got created. Okay. We have created two tasks. S4HK 900 709 is a task on behalf of which user? BN. And there is another task I created. What is this? S4HK 900 710. Okay. Who is the owner of this particular request? BN, right? And on behalf of this BN user, one task also we created. This is again BN. This is related to which user? Something Sridhar. Okay, done. So under the main request, try to understand. Under the main request, we have two tasks. One task is related to BN, another task is related to Sridhar user. Okay, so let me put it like this. Okay, done. So now to further to continue, so see here, this particular 709 task has got one object assigned. What is that object assigned? ZPRG1. So assume this is ZPRG1. Who is the owner of that object? BAN. The person who develops the object is called as owner. So ZPRG1. And under this also, we have two objects. One is ZPRG2. Another is what? ZPRG3. Okay. So under this task, there are two objects. Who is the owner of these two objects? Sridhar. Sridhar is the owner of this particular object. Okay, this is ZPRG2 and this is ZPRG3. Okay, let me put it properly. Yeah. So they are the two objects. Now, how do we do the testing now? If the tester has to do the testing of these objects will be developed in which system? Development system. ABAP consultants will develop the objects in the development system. So these objects should be transported to what? Quality system. So in order to transport, what is the mechanism? Once we are done with the development, the user has to release a respective task. Na? Once all the tasks are released, right? Once all the tasks are released, the main request can be released. So assume that this BAN user is uh, is done with his development and he will release the task. So once we release the task, what happens? A tick mark will appear. Na? A tick mark will appear. So yesterday we have seen how to release the task. Let us see once again. So I am in which user now BN. Okay. So related to BN, how many tasks are there? One task is at 709, right? Under the 709, we have one object. So yesterday we understood that in order to release the task, all the objects, in that particular task should be in active status. Na? So this 709 has got one object here, ZPRG1. If I double click, anyhow it is in active state. Na? So assume that this user is finished with his development. He wants to transport his object. So first what he has to do, he has to release the task. Now, how do you release the task? Select your respective task. One user cannot release the task of other user. Okay, I'll select this particular task. One second. Yeah, I'll select this particular task 900709 and I'll click on what? Truck symbol on the application toolbar. I'm having a button what release directly. So I'll choose this. Good. So you can see here it is showing me what 709 task is what released. Similarly, once this user Sridhar finishes his development, he has to release his own task. Na? But assume that he is stuck up with one of the object. He is stuck up with one of the object or he requires some more time to finish his development. Am I clear? This user is responsible for developing some objects, but some objects are not yet developed. Some objects are not developed. It requires more time or it has got some dependencies. Once the dependencies are developed, then only these objects can be activated, something like that. Some dependencies there. So he is not ready with his development. Okay, but this request has to be transported immediately so that the testing can happen. Am I clear? So in a project, there will be many consultants working. Some consultants might finish with their development. Some consultants may require some more time to finish their development because they got some dependencies or they got stuck up with one object because of many issues. But the rest of the objects which the development is completed, immediately they are to be tested. The testing team is waiting for those objects to be tested. But I cannot release this request. Na? Who is the owner of this request? BN. So I am in which user now? I'm in BN only. I'll try to release a request. What is the request here? 708. A request can be released only if all the tasks under that request are released. But the 710 is not released. Na? So I'll choose 708. I'll click on what? Release directly. Right? So when I choose release directly, observe this. When I choose release directly, yeah. What happened here? I got a message on the status bar. Referencing task 900707110 not yet released. Understood? So I cannot release this request because one of the tasks is not released. So when you are practicing, you may not have multiple users. So what you do, you create two tasks for the same user. For the BN user only, you create two tasks. Am I clear? I repeat once again, don't get panic saying that you don't have multiple users for practice. Not required. You create two tasks for the same user. For BN user only or whatever user ID is there, you create two tasks. one task you release. Means in each task you store some objects. One task you release, another task you don't release for the same user. If you try to release the main request, it will not allow, because some of the tasks under that request is not released. But these objects which are released already needs to be tested. So I need to transport it, but I cannot wait. I cannot wait for this user to finish his development. Immediately, these objects has to be tested. So what happens is, what will happen in the real time is, this is a general problem which we face on a day-to-day basis. Okay, we need not wait for the other consultants to finish their development. So what you will do, since these objects has to be tested immediately, you will create one more request. Understood? You will have one more request, and these objects which are not yet done with the development, you will move that objects with the to the new request. Okay, you will move that objects to the new request, and then what you will do, you will delete these objects from this source task, and then you'll delete the task. A bit clear? So what is the solution here? We will create another request. In that request also you'll have one task. So these objects which are not yet finished with the development, you'll copy these objects from the source task to the target task, which is part of another request. Once the objects are copied to the target task, we can delete the objects from the source task, then delete the source task. After deleting the source task, I can release the source request. Like this is the approach you have to follow. So what I have to do now, these objects still require some more time, so I cannot release the task here. So what I'll do, I'll create another task under another request. So let me create another request. So already we have seen multiple ways of creating the request. So I'm in BN user only. Let me create the request. How do you create? In transport organizer, come to SC09. What is the request type here? Workbench request. What is the request status? Modifiable. Click on what? Create. What is the type of request? Workbench request. Continue. I'll provide some description here. Let me give the description as 13th April 2022 new request, or for our understanding, I'll say request 2. So along with the request, what happens? One default task gets created. So I'll save it. Done. So what happened here? One more request is ready along with a default task. So let me document here. So right. So what I did here, I created right. So I created one more request. So let me put it like this here. What is the other request I created? S4HK 900 711, and I gave some description. What is the description I gave? Something 13th April 2022 request 2. Who is the owner of this request? Same user BN. Under this request, what happened? One default task got created. What is the task here? S4HK 900712. Who is the owner of this task? The same user, that is BN. Right. So this is a task available. So this is completely another request. Under that request, we have what? One task. Am I clear? We have one task. Right. So what is the status of this task initially? It is unclassified because this task is empty. As of now, the task is empty. It is showing it as what? Unclassified. So what is their agenda now? What is the agenda now? Since this user Sridhar is not yet finished with his development, what we have to do, we have to copy the objects from the source task. What is the source task here? 710. You have to copy the objects from 710 to 712 task. Once it is copied, I can delete the objects from the source task so that the source task will become empty. Then delete the source task, and then we can release the source request. Okay, that is the process you have to follow. So what I'll do now, let us see how to copy the objects from a source task to target task across the request. Any queries before I continue? Okay, right. So let me try to copy the objects from source task to target task across the request. So who is the owner of the source task? BN only, na? So I'm in BN user. Sorry. Who is the owner of the source task? Sridhar. Sridhar is the owner of the source task. So let me log on to Sridhar. Yeah, I'm in Sridhar now. Yeah, this is Sridhar. Done. Right, so I need to copy the objects from this one to the other one. So what I'll do here, observe, I'll go to SC09, SC09. If I display, what is the source task here? Source task is what? 710, 710. Acha. So before that, this, since I have to copy it from the tasks of Sridhar to the other request, in the other request also, the Sridhar user has to have one task. Na? So let me create one task here. In the target request, I'll create what? One task. So let me go to target. Yes, Sridhar. Done. Who is the owner of the target request? BN only. Na? So I'll just go to BN. Yeah, it is showing me that 711, which has got what? One default task here, but I have to create one task on behalf of which user? Sridhar. So I'll just right click on this. I'll say what? Add user. Yeah, create the task for the user Sridhar. Done, it is created. What is the task number here? 713. What is the status here? Unclassified. So I created what? One more task. S4HK. What is that? 900713. Who is the owner of this? Sridhar is the owner of this particular task. Okay, done. So this is one more task. So I have to copy the objects from where now? 710 to 713. 710 to 713. So let me double click on the source task. I'll double click on the source task. So I'm in Sridhar only. Done. So what is the source task here? Under 708, 710 is the source task. I'll double click on this. Am I clear? This 710 task has got how many objects? Two objects. So I need to copy all the objects from source task to target task. So I'll double click on the source task. It has opened this. Right? I double clicked on the source task. Then what you have to do? We have to copy these objects from the source to target. So here we have program ID, it seems, object type, it seems, object name, something like this. So what you have to do? You copy all the objects from the source task to what? Target task. Copy all the objects from source task to target task. How do you copy? Observe this. In order to copy this, right, what I did here, I double clicked on the source task. I'm in the source task now. In order to copy these objects in this particular screen, say Control Y, so that it will enable the selection. Control Y, I'll get this plus symbol, right? I got the plus symbol. Now you select whichever objects you want to copy, you select like this. Okay, from here, from program ID, object type, object name, you select. Is it clear? First you have to say Control Y, then only you can do the selection. So I said Control Y, done. Select this, select the objects. After that, say Control C, Control C, done. So what I did here, I double clicked on the source task and I said Control Y. It has enabled the selection process. You select the required objects, means generally you'll select all the objects. After selecting, say Control C. Now you double click on the target task. What is the target task here under 711 only? What is the target task? 713, na? Right? I'll double click on the 713. Here I have to paste it, right? So what is the status of the target task? It is unclassified, na? The status of the target task is unclassified. Unclassified. So I'll try to copy the objects to the target task. When I double click on 713, it has opened with a target task which is empty. I'll try to, it is in display mode. I'll try to switch to change mode. On the application toolbar, we have the button display or change. I'll just click on what change button. Yeah, it is giving a message on the status bar. The task is unclassified and cannot be edited. So what I did here, I double clicked on the source task. I copied the objects, then I double clicked on the target task. It will open the target task in display mode. I'll try to switch to what? Change mode. When I try to switch to change mode, it is giving a message, it is unclassified and cannot be edited. It has not opened that in what? Editable mode. So I'll say Control V here. No, it is not allowing me. I'm trying to paste it here by saying Control V. It is not allowing me. Is it clear? Because the target task status is what? Unclassified. That is why it is not allowing me it is not allowing me to open that in editable mode. So what I have to do now, since I need to open that target task in editable mode, I'll try to change the status of the status. I'll try to change the status of the task. What is the current status here? Unclassified. How do I change the status? Observe this. Right click on the task, that is the target task, which is unclassified. Right click, and somewhere here you have change type, or else just select your task. Somewhere here choose the menu request / task, and you can see we have one menu item, what? Change type. In order to change the status of the task, what you have to do, select your task, choose the menu request / task, and choose what? Change type. I'll choose change type. Done. You can see here what is the current status here? Unclassified. You change it to development / correction. Change it to development / correction. Am I clear? I repeat once again. What is our agenda? We have to copy the objects from source task to target task across the request. So what I did, I double clicked on the source task and we copied the objects. In order to copy the objects, you have to enable the selections. I said Control Y, then I selected the objects, then I said Control C. I double clicked on the target task. In order to paste it there, I need to open that in editable mode. It is not allowing me to open in editable mode because the current status is unclassified. So I need to change the status of the target task from unclassified to development / correction. So that is the reason I'll right click on my target task and I'll say change type here. It is not there here. Huh? So what I have to do, I'll just choose this target task, choose the menu request / task and choose what? Change type. Yeah. What is this here? Development / correction. Development / correction. Say continue. Good. What is the status of the task changed here? Development / correction. Right. So once the status of the target task is what? Development / correction. Development / correction. Now what I'll do? Once again, I'll double click on the source task. Since I need to copy the objects, I'll double click on my source task, that is 710. Right. How do you enable the selection here? Control Y. Then you'll get this plus symbol. You select this. Hold the control key. Select the objects. Say Control C now. Control C. Done. Now go back. Double click on the target task. What is the target task here? 713. Double click on this. Now you try to switch to what? Change mode. Yes, it has opened that in change mode. Then in the column what? Program ID. Put the cursor there. Say Control V. Control V. Paste it. Press enter once. Yeah, done. Okay, that's it. Save it. It is saved. So what I did here, I copied the objects from source task to target task. Okay, I copied the objects from source task to target task. Now what I have to do? I have to go back to my source task and delete the objects from the source task, because I need to delete the source task. Na? I cannot directly delete the source task because it has got some objects. Na? So I'll go to the source task. What is the source task here? 710. Na? So what I'll do now, as of now, it contains some two. I said copy here, right? So what I'll do now, without deleting the objects under the task, I'll try to delete the task itself. How do I delete the task? I'll just right click on my task. Anywhere delete is there? Not there. Huh? Yeah, you can see we have delete. Understood? I'll right click on my task, source task. What is the source task here? 710. Right? I'll choose what? Delete. It is giving a message on the status bar. Task 710 cannot be deleted because it contains what? Locked objects. It contains a locked object. So in order to delete the task should be made empty. So how do I make it as empty? You delete all the objects under the task. How do I delete the objects? Right click on each object and say what? Delete. Okay, I'll right click on PRG2. I'll say delete. Yeah, it is saying that caution. PRG2 is locked. Move the object instead of deleting it. Already I moved it now. Already I moved it to the target task. So I'll try to delete. Continue. Object is locked. Delete the entry from the object list. Yes. Yes, it got deleted from 710. Similarly, I'll right click on PRG3. I'll say what? Delete. Program. The object is locked. Move the object instead of delete. Already I moved it. Delete the object. Yes. Done. So I made my source task as empty. Now I can delete this task. Actually, I need not delete it because anyhow this task doesn't have any objects. I can directly release the main request. Am I clear? So I can, if you want, I will delete it. I'll right click on this. I'll say what? Delete. Unless the task is empty, so I need not delete it also. I can directly release the request. But just for understanding, I'll delete the source task. Right click on the source task. I'll choose what? Delete. Delete 710. Yes. Yes, it got deleted. Okay. Now what we can do, since the objects are already moved to the target task, they already moved to the target task. Now this owner can release his request, right? I'll choose 708, click on what? Release directly. What happened here? You can see at the bottom, I got under the release section, I got that 708 got released. So what I'm trying to convey here is, in the project, there will be multiple consultants working. Some consultants might finish the development, some consultant may not finish the development because they require more time, or there are many objects, or there are some dependency. There would be various reasons. They require some more time. But I cannot release the main request. I can release the main request only when all the tasks are released. So since there are some tasks which are not yet released, what I have to do now? They are still under development. So I need to move the objects from the source task to target task across another request. After that, after moving the objects from source task to target task across the request, I need to delete all the objects from the source task. Once objects are deleted from the source task, I can delete the source task. I can release the source request. So this is the process of moving the objects from one request to another request. Yeah, any questions, please ask. So this issue will happen on a regular basis in the project. There will be many consultants working. Okay, some consultants may require more time. So we cannot wait for all the consultants to finish the development. There would be some objects immediately we need to test it. In order to test it, that object has to be transported from development toward quality. The testing team is waiting. So what you have to do is the undeveloped objects, the objects which require more time, will copy the objects of that unreleased task from the source task to target task across another request, not within the same request, across another request. Once the objects are copied, I can make the source task empty by deleting all the objects, then delete the source task if required, then release the source request. Any questions? Yesterday's recording I have not shared for any batches. There is some problem in conversion. So I'll do the conversion today and I'll share the recording, yesterday's recording and today's recording. And some of you asked the day before yesterday recording also. I'll share that also. Okay, I'll definitely share it today. All right. So there is one more important concept we should know related to this, version management. So this part I'll discuss tomorrow. Okay, I'll try to share this recording by afternoon, both the recordings. Practice this. Tomorrow we'll continue with this version management so that we can wind up the transport management. So in your practice, when you're practicing a system, you may not have multiple users. So what you do for the same user, you create multiple tasks. You can create any number of tasks. I have shown you. For one user, I can create any number of tasks. Okay. So in each task, you can store some objects. There are some objects which are not yet finished with the development. So those objects you have to move it to what other task across the request. So you create one more request. Under that request, you create a task. You copy the objects from source to target and do the same process. Done. So I'm done for today's session. Any questions, please ask.
Sir, in the syllabus we have SAP scripts also now.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
Actually, we
okay.
don't have. We don't have. I thought of hearing the recordings, but some people are insisting for the recording, and that person itself is not attending. He is with back
Okay.
of me from the last 2 months. When I actually started, he's not attending the sessions. Otherwise, I'm having the recordings of that. I could have shared it long back.
Okay.
So I'll share it, Sandeep. I'll share the
Yeah, okay.
recordings. Otherwise, I'll try to conduct the live session because
Yeah, okay,
already
sir.
I already covered smart forms for you, right, in detail.
Yes, yes.
So,
Yeah, it's completed.
so same thing in scripts also. Scripts is actually outdated, but just for
Yeah,
knowledge
older
sake,
version.
yeah, older thing. But just for
Okay.
knowledge sake, we should have some information. I'll try to share the recording for you. Otherwise, anyhow, for this batch also, I need to cover. So I'll check whether I'll
Okay.
conduct the live session or recordings. Okay,
Okay. Okay, sir.
right? Yeah. Any other questions, please? So tomorrow we'll continue with this transport management. We'll see one more important concept called as version management. These are all the miscellaneous concepts, okay, which we'll use on a daily basis. When you're developing, we need to transport. So when you're dealing with the transport, we'll involve in this workbench request, customizing request, version management, all those things. Done. So I'll wind up then. We'll continue tomorrow. Ciao. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.